Hello there, a very good morning and a warm welcome to the show. Thank you so much for watching Smart 24 TV, where we drive your business. My name is Anthony Sebale, and of course, this is another edition of Financial Markets. It's a Tuesday, and of course, the 20th of June, 2023. This is, of course, your number one platform where you get to know, of course, about the stock market performances. You get to know what's happening, of course, in the continent and within the region and in the local stock market, as well as other segments of financial markets around the world. The show is proudly brought to you by Altex East Africa. And with Altex, we are saying you can do something absolutely new. Simply dial *292# to experience Zabu under Altex East Africa. Altex is saying you can do something new because they are giving you treasury bond market access and, of course, convenience and affordability within the trade of the securities within the capital markets. Now, Altex East Africa is saying nothing is impossible, and you can start your journey of investment with as little as 15,000 Ugandan shillings in the East African region. You can invest in Kenya, in Uganda and Tanzania as well, using that particular amount of money. It can be split out, different bonds in East Africa, and you can get your return on all those bonds. Altex East Africa, you can do something new. Let's get to delve into the business of the trade here on the Uganda Securities Exchange first and foremost. Now, on Monday, it was the first weekday of trade after, of course, the holiday. That was from the weekend. And according to data from the Uganda Securities Exchange, we had, at least by the end of the day, at least a total of 477,000 shares that were traded. The recorded amount of money that was transacted, at least 14.3 million, was recorded as transactions within the market and, of course, over-the-counter trades. The capitalization on the Uganda Securities Exchange is currently at 17.7 trillion Ugandan shillings. In the trading participants, we had 4 equities that are listed out of the 18 participating in the trade on the Uganda Securities Exchange. The day ended, unfortunately, with just one single gainer and 4 losers on the market. The single gainer was Stanbic Bank Uganda. Stanbic Bank Uganda brought a return of 1.33%, closing off the day at 26 Ugandan shillings per share. Stanbic Bank Uganda continues to rally the Uganda Stock Exchange as not only the most traded on stock on the Uganda Securities Exchange, but also one that has declared a dividend for the last financial year, 2022. And that's according, of course, as per their audited financial statements. They'll be issuing a dividend worth over 150 billion on that particular date as they communicated. Now, Stanbic Bank Uganda is part of Africa's leading financial service institutions under Standard Bank Group. Standard Bank Group is based in South Africa. That's where, of course, their headquarters are. But, of course, they have different holding companies within Africa, in Kenya, in Uganda, and a couple of other African countries. Stanbic Bank Uganda, currently on the exchange, holds a 1.3 trillion Ugandan shillings market capitalization. And yesterday, their price went up by 0.34 Ugandan shillings up to a trading price of 26.0 Ugandan shillings per share, a 1.33% appreciation in price. Now, Stanbic Bank Uganda seems to be doing quite well, especially after declaring their dividend, but also the fact that the company has been growing not only in assets and the management or assets that the bank holds, but also in the customer base and profitability. In the last financial year, the company made a profit of 366 billion Ugandan shillings. This is a progressive increase in their profit. Of course, comparing with the previous years, in 2020, The financial year ended 2020, they had at least about 245 billion. In the next financial year, 2021, they ended with at least over 275 billion. Now they are realizing another increment in the profit, rising to over 366 billion, which is one of their fastest growing ever profits that we have seen so far on the financial institution. In terms of trading volumes, yesterday, the company traded the highest volume on the exchange after about 400,000 shares were traded at a record 10.4 million Ugandan shillings. Now, currently we have 51.2 billion shares that are up for grab on the Stanbic Bank Uganda counter and the market capitalization of 1.33 trillion. But let's look at the longer term perspective. In 3 months, in the past one quarter, the company has gained 23.8% in value. And in the last 6 months as well, 23.8% has been the value they have been able to accrue. The company has been lingering between 21, 22, 23 to 26 Ugandan shillings. And 26 seems to be their top figure where they are currently. If any single coin is added to this share price, that will be their record highest share price, at least in the past couple of years. When I scroll back a couple of years ago, 2021, the company's highest price so far has been at least 27.5 Ugandan shillings in 2022, for example. And then in 2021, their highest price was 28 Ugandan shillings. Then moving backwards, the highest price they have had, at least in 2019, at some point in June 2019, their price was as high as 30 Ugandan shillings. And then when I scroll back further, in 2018, their stock price went as high as 33 Ugandan shillings per share. We're just looking at a review of what the stock has had as their peak performance in the last couple of years. 2017 seems like they maintained the price at their peak price was at least 27 Ugandan shillings, 28 Ugandan shillings in 2017. Looking further back, we are seeing at least 28 shillings still being maintained in 2016. So you can see the history of the price at Stanbic Bank Uganda. Their highest price now, according to the data we have in the last 5 years, has been 33 Ugandan shillings, just at one point in time in 2018. But recent performance has showed and indicated very much very positive outlook. When you look at the company's trading volumes, in just the last couple of days, on the 16th, that was on Friday, 16th of June, they traded 400,000. Yesterday, they did trade 400,000 again on the 19th of June. Then 15th of June, they had about 293,200 shares, 26,900 shares on the 14th of June. Every single day, they've tried to put up a good participation within the market, showing that the stock is quite one of those popular stocks within the exchange. In the last one quarter, they are the number one most traded on stock as well on the Uganda Securities Exchange. When you look at their current data, of course, from the Uganda Securities Exchange, within the last 3 months, from the 14th of March to the 16th of June, they have recorded at least 139 million shares at a total of 3.58 billion Ugandan shillings, which is highly commendable of Stanbic Bank Uganda. Now, Stanbic Bank Uganda declared a dividend this year, and they will be issuing that dividend. You can check out their website and check out their audited financial results for more details there about the book closure date and so on and so forth. But the stock is highly commendable, quite affordable, 26 shillings per share, and you can be a shareholder with Stanbic Bank Uganda. On the losing side, we had East African Breweries Limited lose 1.90% and close off the day at 4,297 Ugandan shillings per share. The Jubilee Holding stock at least lost 1.09%, and that was down to 4,989 Ugandan shillings. And then Centum Investments at least lost 0.92%. down to 4,989.58 Ugandan shillings. The Equity Bank Limited stock, at least, was down to 978.14 Ugandan shillings after losing 0.70%. KSCB lost 0.70% as well, down to 817.32 Ugandan shillings. Kenya Airways continue to, of course, lose value after 0.7% was lost, down to 100.98 Ugandan shillings. Those were some of the big movers on the market, rather the big participants in terms of gains and losses. But looking at the volume side, as I said, Stanbic Bank Uganda had the highest share of volumes that was traded. When you look at the other traders, we had Bank of Baroda Uganda trade at least 61,500 shares, and then when you look at the MTN Uganda company, at least had 15,790 shares, and the Wumeme company at least 400 shares that were recorded. Regarding the performance of the USE markets indices, the benchmark index, which tracks the aggregate performance of all the 18 stocks on the exchange, at least went down by 5.9 points, of course, consequent of the poor performance of the cross-listed stocks on Monday, down to 1,032 points. However, we are counting now losses of, in 1 week, about 1.5%, and in 4 weeks, a loss of 0.83%, and overall year-to-date loss of 14.82%. So a little more work, really, for the all-share index, and especially from the cross-listings. Remember, cross-listings movements are usually not due to participation in trade or trading on the exchange, but rather the external macroeconomic factors like inflation and, of course, trading on the primary stock exchange. They're pricing on their primary stock exchanges, in this case, which is the particularly Nairobi Stock Exchange. They do impact how their prices turn out on the Uganda Stock Exchange here on our local market. And that's the trade, my friend, from Uganda Securities Exchange. Remember, to be a trader, it's quite easy. You must, of course, follow a few simple steps. First of all, you need to know what you want. Are you investing for the long term? Are you investing for a short term? But it would always be, of course, advisable to invest on long-term basis. Number one, because it is safer. Number two, because you will definitely have better gains when you invest for longer term. Number three, it's less stressing than investing for the short term, because you don't have to really wake up every morning and worry about how your stocks are doing. You're there, you're comfortable, you are not moved because you have invested for the long term or with the long-term vision of your portfolio. Now, to invest, it's quite simple. Well, you get to open a securities central depository account or an SCD account with the Uganda Securities Exchange, a central depository registry there at www.use.org. When you go there, you go to Easy Portal and, of course, put your details of your email, your personal identification number or your PIN, and then your NIN number, rather, and then you have, of course, the details captured. It is absolutely free of charge. You have your account number, and whenever you're comfortable, you can always go ahead and use it to buy stocks. Well, the other simple step is to, of course, reach out to a stockbroker of your own choice. We have several of them on the market, and you get to reach out to them and ask them for, of course, how they can help you to buy these shares. A stockbroker is one who stands between you, the public, or the investors, and the exchange, and of course the buyers and sellers. So he knows exactly who is selling at what time and who is interested in buying. So they help you to link, of course, with other buyers and sellers on the market. Away from Uganda, let's have a look at Nairobi Securities Exchange, our very own busiest and, of course, one of the biggest stock exchanges in Africa. Now, in aggregate, we had at least 45 listings out of the 66 on the Nairobi Securities Exchange participate in trade. And the day ended with 20 gainers and 17 losers on the market. The car and general company led the gainers at 9.6% appreciation in price, closing off the day at 27.40 Kenyan shillings. Now, Car and General Limited is a Kenyan-based holding company engaged in the sale and servicing of power plants, power equipment, and household goods, as well as agricultural tractors and implements, and marine engines, motorcycle engines, motor cars, three-wheel vehicles, commercial laundry equipment, commercial engines, and general goods. The company's operating segments include trades, workshop, and of course, poultry and investment properties. Currently, Car and General is valued as the 42nd most valuable company on the Nairobi Securities Exchange, of course, benchmarking its market capitalization of 1.1 billion Kenyan shillings. Now, Car and General yesterday closed off the day at 27.40 after an appreciation of 9.6%. Shares outstanding currently stand at 40.1 million and about 1.1 billion Kenyan shillings as market capitalization. Safaricom has some good news as well. Safaricom returned with a gain of 7.72%. Well, yes, Safaricom is getting back to its feet, it seems. And Safaricom currently is the biggest telecommunications company in Kenya, with now a subsidiary as well in Ethiopia. Now, currently, Safaricom is the number one most valuable company on the stock exchange. Of course, that is still in regard to its loss of some bit of value. When you look at the last 3 months, the last 6 months, Safaricom has lost some amount of value. But currently, they hold 39.8% of the entire market capitalization of the Nairobi Securities Exchange, with over 643 billion Kenyan shillings worth of market capitalization. Yesterday, their price went up by quite some value of 7.72% after trading just 276,400 shares under 35 deals. The day ended with a 4.44 million Kenyan shillings market turnover that was registered. Looking at their weekly performance now, Safaricom stock has now gained 1.9% over the past 1 week, and over the past 4 weeks, at least 7% has been added as value to their shareholding. And we look at their current price at 16.05 Kenyan shillings. They closed Monday with a gain of 7.7%. They are currently the number one most traded on steel in the past 3 months, recording at least 643 million shares within the period. That is Safaricom stock for you there. Now, moving on, we had Longhorn Publishers appreciate by 6.96%. These are some of the biggest guys within the Kenyan market, and you would be interested in getting to know, of course, the details of financial statements and so on, which are definitely available for you on their websites. Diamond Trust Bank is another one with a 5.57 appreciation yesterday. And on the losing side, Sanlam Kenya unfortunately came in at the bottom with an end-of-day price depreciation of 9.77% at 7.02 Kenyan shillings per share. Whereas the Nairobi Nation Media Group at least had a loss of 9.76%, and the Kenya Reinsurance Corporation came in at a loss of 8.59%. East African Portland Cement at least lost 6.34% on the market yesterday. The biggest recorded volume will surprise you this time round. Homeboys Entertainment recorded the highest volume with a 3.33 million shares volume. Now, this is a very new listing, Homeboys Entertainment. This is an entertainment company that is offering bespoke services in event production. Established in 1992, the company was started as a small DJ agency for weddings and house parties, and the company currently has grown to become one of the biggest and most influential entertainment companies in the region. Homeboys is listed amongst the top 10 event production companies in Africa and has attracted a wide spectrum of clients both locally and around the region, with a vision to provide unique and no compromise approach to event production. On the Nairobi Securities Exchange, they are currently the When you look at their market capitalization, they're 54th, which is quite small, at least 595 million Kenyan shillings. But the impact is so far so good as per the trade they had yesterday. Their stock was listed on the 21st of December 2020 here on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. When you look at their volumes of trade, they are the 19th most traded on stock in the past 3 months on the Nairobi Securities Exchange, recording at least 3.33 million shares within the period in 2 deals. Quite interesting there from Homeboys Entertainment. We also had Kenya Power and Lighting Company, 532,000 shares traded, and Safaricom, 477,200 shares that were traded. Consequent of the good performance of most of the stocks on Nairobi Securities Exchange, the benchmark index, the famous all-share index, soared at least by 3.04 points upwards to 103.39 points on Nairobi Securities Exchange. And that's the trading, my friend, from the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Remember, we are vying for the integration of the East African capital markets, and that's of course something that we are looking forward to as the financial markets here in Uganda to of course have a breakthrough into our own market, into our region, and of course remove the tariff and non-tariff barriers that are currently present if you want to invest across the borders within East Africa. We definitely hope the Nairobi Securities Exchange makes the decision to get on board, because without it, we might not have an exchange within East Africa. It's one of the biggest in Africa, and of course continues to influence a lot the capital markets within the African continent. And that's it from Nairobi Securities Exchange. Elsewhere in Africa, generally speaking, Zimbabwe ended with losses of 5,617 points on their benchmark index on Monday, and the Nigerian Stock Exchange appreciated by 13.89 points slightly on their benchmark index. The Johannesburg Stock Exchange also dropped some slight value on their benchmark index, whereas Ghana Stock Exchange appreciated on the other hand. Away from the African continent, moving across the board in the United States. Of course, there's been a lot of talk on the debt ceiling, which is now, of course, out of the headlines. But the stock market rally continued last week with the Nasdaq Composite at least clinching an 8th straight winning streak, while the S&P 500 continued to be on a bullish run with a 2.5% gain. Key news on inflation and a pause in the data in the Federal Reserve's rate hiking campaign. In the week ahead, investors will again, of course, keep their focus on the United States Central Bank, with the Federal Reserve Bank Chairman, Mr. Jerome Powell, at least set to testify before the House Financial Services Committee on Wednesday, that is tomorrow, and the Senate Banking Committee on Thursday, as well as part of the semi-annual testimony before the lawmakers. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in at Smart 24 TV. This is Financial Markets, proudly brought to you by Otex East Africa. And as Zabo Otex is saying, you can do something new. Simply dial *292# and follow the prompts for you to experience the magic at Otex. You can invest in treasury bonds, exchange-traded funds across Africa, within East Africa, and of course at the convenience of your phone, with as simple as simply dialing *292#, and of course getting to invest with as little as 15,000 Ugandan shillings. Otex East Africa, you can do something new. And there you are, my friend. We shall meet up, of course, tomorrow. A lot more business ahead for the day. We have UG Kole, we do have Skill Up later on in the day, and Jen Kolera, and a couple of other interesting business shows. So stick around. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good day.